What's happening, guys? It's Sir William, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of work on Apple here, my 2015 4Runner. Now, if this is your first time joining the channel, thank you for tuning in. I invite you to go take a look around at some of the other videos where I take Apple here on off-road adventures, overlanding adventures all across the United States. Today, however, is going to be a little bit of a different video as it's going to be a DIY project. So what I'll be doing today is actually building a platform to go from the rear tailgate all the way to the rear of the front seats there. I have taken out the back seats of Apple because I don't need them. I am going to build out a full-on camper build eventually in Apple, and this is going to be the very start of that camper build. Now, if you guys follow the channel at all, you know that about a year ago exactly, I actually created one of these platforms, and the reasoning behind that was so that way I could get an idea of how I wanted the final design to be. I've been rolling around with that platform for, like I said, about a year now, and it's worked out fantastic. There are a few things that I'm going to change. One, first things first is I've got to make my chuck box just a little bit smaller. I made it a little bit too long. Two, I have to make sure that I square up everything perfect this time, otherwise it's not going to slide in and it provides for a little bit of a hassle on the trail. Three, most importantly, is I've changed fridges. So I was rolling around with an 𝐵𝐵cie TB51A, which is a 50-liter standard style truck fridge that you see all over the place. Now I've upgraded to the 𝗍𝐼𝐶𝐭 VL60, which is a dual zone fridge freezer setup that is 60 liters. It is much larger, it takes up a whole lot more space, and it's designed a little bit differently, so I have to design my platform a little bit differently. The good news is, though, is I will be able to have the flat platform all the way to the rear of the front seats, and I don't have to do a drop down, which is what I had to do in the other style setup. So that's a good thing. I still plan on having the elevated sleeping platform for my wife to sleep on. I'm still going to be sleeping down here, so that kind of stuff will not change. I will change how I do the platform. I cannot decide if I want to do aluminum tubing yet or if I want to go back with wood, so that's still up in the air. But the first thing that I have to do before I can do any of that is I have to get a flat space to work with, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So stay tuned. Now, I think it goes without saying that you must take out everything in the rear of your 4Runner, but in case I have to say it, I'm saying it now. Take out everything in the rear of your 4Runner. I've taken out both the back seats. I've also taken out the rear cargo sliding deck that mine came equipped with, and I've taken out the carpet as well. So I'm left with a bare bottomed floor in the very back, and I've got carpet in the very front. This 2x4 is left over from the other platform build that I had, and it sits nicely right there, and I'll probably keep it. And the reason is because that is going to be the separation point between the front platform and the rear platform. Let me show you why. The rear platform is extremely easy because it is, well, it's flat. It's a simple piece of board that I can put from the unpainted portion of that 2x4 all the way to the back. Now over here, as you can see, I've got to make up for this little piece right here, this contour. So inevitably what's going to happen is the platform is going to be a little bit more narrow here than it is in the front here. So what I've actually done for this little hump here is I set the blade real shallow on my circular saw and made a few little slits here and then broke them away. This is a pretty common practice here. As you can see, it created this nice little slot for that to fit right over on my board here. Now, I want my platform to come all the way up to the back of the front seats, but I also want to be able to use these 12 volts if I absolutely have to, even though I've got full-time 12 volts in the back. What I've done first is I've gone ahead and I've got my front seats in a nice seating position to where I don't think that they'll ever need to go any further back. And, well, if they do, no luck. Now, the other part of the equation is this. I'm going to have some room up underneath here and a little bit of room up underneath here. Now, this space here is going to be pretty much unusable. As you can see right here, it's not a whole lot of room. But this space right here I'll be able to use for storage. Eventually what I'll do is cut some cubby holes and different things like that. But the most important thing that we're going to do today is we're going to get that platform laid out. That's the primary goal for this video. Now, I should be able to use these factory bolts here in order to tie the platform down, but we'll see. I'm thinking that if I just countersink some holes, I can take these things out and I should be able to nail it down there. But, you know, the other one I didn't screw down at all. I know that was probably a bad idea, but to be honest with you, it rode great. I never had any problems, never had any rattles. I never had any problem with it, you know, coming loose or anything like that. Half of that was because of the amount of weight. Now, let's be honest though, in the case of any kind of serious, you know, accident or rollover or anything like that, that is very unsafe, so I would not recommend doing that. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you can somehow or another tie down your platform to the body of the truck. Now this is the actual old piece, and you might be asking yourself why I'm not reusing this piece. Well, the reason is because this piece is covered with glue. That glue is what I use to put down some vinyl on, and I just can't get it off. The other thing is it's got this this bed liner on there, and I'm not real sure that that's how I want to coat the new one. So I could just flip it over, but then it's got holes in it and all that good stuff, and also it's not cut down perfectly the way it needs to be. Now, even though I got Home Depot to cut down the new pieces of wood for me, this particular piece is cut to the same dimensions as the old platform was. It's not exact, so I'm still going to have to make some minor modifications. Whenever I lay it into the 4Runner, it doesn't lay completely square the way that I need it to. So that's 41.5. By roughly 37. So 41.5 by roughly 37 should get the trick done. Now, the way that I had this thing before is I actually had 2x4 sitting on these bolts and one 2x4 here, and I nailed it down to there and I didn't have any problem. For some reason, that's not working on this one. It's not lining up with that 2x4 up there. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's not completely square, but we're going to cut it down to size and we're going to go from there and see how it does. So I've got my 41.5 by 37 board here. Let's just see how that fits over. Now this fits good, but as you can see, I've got a little bit of flex right here in the center, so let's see what we can do to fix that. Now what I did for the last piece was I just had this piece of 2x4 right here in the center, and it worked out fantastic. Let's see if I can't still do that. So if I do that, then I'm not connecting to this 2x4 in the front here, so we got to come up with a different plan. So I'm right at 1 1/4 inch of space between the floor and the bottom of the board here, in which the 2x4 is actually 1 1/2. So what I could do is I could take a few pieces of this 1/2 inch board and actually create a little platform. There's millions of different ways that you can go about ensuring that you get a clean, straight cut. But the way that I'm going to do it is I've got this piece of metal here that I'm actually just going to lay across. I've made my measurements on both ends of the board. I'm going to see exactly where my blade needs to be. Move my piece of straight edge here. Make sure that it's lined up and clamp it down. Now, at risk of sounding a little bit like a cornball, make sure that you put on safety glasses. These are my riding glasses, so whatever you have that's going to protect your eyes will work. I assure you, sawdust will get in your eyes whenever you're cutting, even if you're cutting only something small. Let's see how that new piece of wood fits. Right there is going to work good. Now what I need to do is create some sort of a spacer for the bottom. So I've got a pretty long piece of remaining wood from that 1/2 inch plywood that I had them cut at Home Depot for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it down to, it looks like 27 inches by, I'd say 4 inches. So 4 inches wide, 27 inches long, stack 3 of those identical pieces of boards together, and that should be just plenty for my spacers. Use that same technique as before. Making sure that I get those nice straight cuts this time. The last one looked like it was built and designed by Dr. Seuss, no lie. And the reason is just because I didn't take the time to do it right. Primarily because I knew that I was going to be redoing it. Now, since this is going to go up underneath the platform, it's not as imperative that it be so clean and neat. So now we have the back part of the platform down. It's supported in the middle, not going anywhere. All I have to do now is just simply screw it to these. But first what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to glue these together here. Let those set, and that'll be a nice spacer for us. I could have been a little bit cleaner with this and made it a little bit of a tighter fit by cutting it at an angle to make up for the little bit of an angle that the 4Runner has. But I'm not trying to win any kind of beauty contest here. It's just mainly going to be for function. And this side over here is actually going to be covered up by the sleep platform that I'm going to be using later on. Ultimately, the sleep platform is what's got to be the prettiest part, because that's the part that everybody's going to see. So now comes the fun part that I told you guys about. As you can see, it's got to go in right there, and then come all the way through here. So what I've done is I've actually taken a piece of box here that I got from Home Depot, and I did a rough little design. Now what I'll do is I'll transfer that onto the big piece of plywood that I've got to cut for this piece. Let's go over here and make sure that it's the same on the other side before we do that. So when I flip it around to the other side over here, as you can see, this is roughly the same design. So I'm going to transfer that design onto a big piece of plywood, and that will be this front portion of that platform. All right, so now that I've transferred my rough design from the cardboard box to the board here, I'm going to go ahead and cut it out with my jigsaw. That should do it. Let's go give it a test fit. I'd say that fits. Perfect. What I'm going to do is create some spacing using these two 2x4s. Yeah, that works perfect. So the next step here is to get all of my spacers glued together. And hopefully I've got enough glue to do it, because we're running low. All I'm going to do is simply just glue them all together and clamp them. For the 2x4s, I'm going to use weights. Yummy. We're almost out of glue, guys. We need to pick up some more of this stuff. Get you a full bottle of glue whenever you attempt this. You know, I don't think that it's going to have a whole bunch, you know, because it's not like it's going to have significant weight on it, but you do want a good bit, you know. All right, so leave those clamped down. Put these like this. That really should be sufficient enough for what we're going to be doing with it. Again, the biggest thing for these is going to be just to support the weight of the board and anything that I put on it. So it's not like it has to have a whole lot of strength. The strength's going to come from whenever I bolt this thing down in the back, and then I've got to figure out how I'm going to bolt it down in the front, but that's to come. All right, so I've got the front of the platform done, the rear of the platform done, and I'm just going to let these dry overnight, and I'm going to come back to you guys and put it all together. So now I have taken my little spacer pieces, nailed them up underneath there. I've blocked it up with this little piece of 2x4 here. Here's that other spacer piece right there. Now I've got a nice platform that I can start with. As you can see over there, I cut it just a little bit too much, but it's okay. Again, this whole piece right here to the left will be covered up by the kitchen system that I install. Also, the 60-liter fridge is going to sit right there. Here's the deal. I've got these bolts that go right here, and I think that they're from the factory sliding cargo deck or whatever. But anyway, I think that they're going to work perfect for what I want. Basically, they'll go in right at about that much, and I will countersink some holes down into 3 of these boards that I have glued together here. And then that will sit just like that right there, and I will then mount that on top of this. So I know for sure that this is going to be a hell of a lot more secure than the last one was, and the last one never went anywhere. So let's go ahead and see what we're doing. Now, in order to make sure that I get these holes right, you can see that they go all the way through to the bottom. So I'll just get up underneath there and then mark them. So after making a series of holes right down there, as you can see, I've got the bolt and it is actually attached to the first piece of 1/2 inch, which, you know, if you were trying to put a whole bunch of weight on just that one little connection, it would probably not be sufficient. But for what we're going to be doing with it, it'll be perfect. Now, as far as insulation goes, I've gone to Home Depot here and I picked up this DIY insulation kit. I'm going to cut this down to size and put it right down in between these two spacers here, and that's going to keep some of the hot air out as well as keep some of the noise out. Now, to coat it, what I did last time was I got some spray-on bed liner by 𝐼𝐴 that was in a spray can, and I really didn't like the rough texture that it gave. From what I've been told, whenever you roll it on, you get a little bit of a different texture, more of a polyurethane, kind of like a Line-X does. The only thing is this is a whole lot cheaper than Line-X. It's probably the cheapest DIY bed liner that you could find that still has really good reviews, so I'm looking forward to using this. I was able to get the quart of 𝐼𝐴 as well as the application kit for all right at around 40 bucks, and I'm thinking that's going to be plenty for what I need. So let's go ahead and get this foam piece cut down. Pretty simple stuff here. All I've got to do is just kind of make sure that it's the right width and the right length, and we're good to go. Dang, it almost fits perfect. I've got to trim a little bit off of the edges. By the way, when you're cutting this stuff up, it makes a mess, so be prepared. That should do it right there. Alright, so with the truck bed coating roller kit, you get everything that you need to put this stuff on. You get the little pan to put it in, a little scuff pad to prime it with, a little touch-up brush, as well as the roller brush that you need. Now you just pour this stuff in and let her roll. You do need to make sure that you mix this stuff up. If you got a paint mixer, that works out better, I think. I guess I should have thought about that before I left the store. How about this handle? Oh, be damn. What can you do, you know? Sometimes it just doesn't work out for you. So it just kind of broke. If you're going to do this, you might want to consider a different type of kit. That was the 𝐵𝐵𝐴 colored kit. We're going to make do with this roller, but you'll definitely want to get you a better kit, you know, at least a better roller. All right, now we'll let that dry. All right, so now we're just going to repeat the same process with the front piece. Again, go ahead and mix this up. It's got like this rubber stuff in there, so that's what you're actually mixing up. Of course, they say to do it very well. I do it good enough. Yeah. Good enough is good enough, you know? Alright, well that's it. Now I've got both pieces coated with the bed liner. I'm going to let them sit for about 2 days out here in the hot summer sun of South Carolina, and hopefully we don't get any rain. But you never know because it is South Carolina. Then we're going to put them back in. Meanwhile, I've got to go get all this shit off my hands. So after test fitting the piece here, I found that my insulation is sticking up just a tad bit more than I need it to be, making it uneven with that 2x4 that I have up front there. So what I'm going to do to fix this is I've got this piece of board here, and I've got this Ford wrench, and I'm just going to hit it, and hopefully that'll flatten it down some. For support up front, what I've done is I've split these 2x4s and I screwed 1/2 up here in the front, 1/2 in the rear. Up in the center, I put another 2x4 right there, cut down the size, and then over here underneath are those 2x4s that I used as spacers, nailed down to the top decking. Then in the back, it's nailed to the other 2x4, which is nailed to the rear deck, which is nailed to those spacers, which is bolted down to the back. This thing isn't going anywhere. As you guys can see, this is going to provide a lot of additional flat storage space in the back of the 4Runner, as well as make for a fantastic platform for future projects as I build out a sleeping platform, a place to have a little drawer down here, as well as an area to hold my chuck box. Now, as I said in the beginning of the video, I wasn't aiming to win any kind of beauty contest. I've got right at around $150 invested in this entire platform. You could go online and take a look at these plate systems and they're close to $1,000. So I'd say I saved a good bit of money by doing it myself. That being said, you can build this just as fancy as you want to, or just as basic as I did. Ultimately, sometimes good enough is good enough. Man, this BL60 is a huge fridge. Well, look at there, I can open it up fully with no problems. That's awesome. Really cool. Hey, listen, well, that's going to wrap it up for the 5th Gen 4Runner's rear cargo deck system. I hope that you guys liked this video, and I hope that it inspired you to get outside and do some work on your overlanding rig. If it did, make sure that you hit that like button, as well as go down in the comments and tell me what you're working on. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button too, so that way you can follow along as I build out Apple here to suit me exactly the way that I need it. Till next time, peace.